Dobrý večer vám všem příznivcům architektury. Omlouváme se vám za zpoždění způsobené technickými problémy, ale doufám, že už všechno proběhne v pořádku. Sdílíme s váma přednášku, která se bohužel odehraje online ve virtuálním prostředí a děkujeme, že jste si na ní našli čas i ve chvílích, kdy můžete sedět někde na zahrádce. Kruh je neziskový projekt, který se již takto dlouhou dobu věnuje osvětě v architektuře a kromě přednášek realizuje i celorepublikový festival Procházek Den architektury nebo filmový festival Film a architektura. Pro nás, pro všechny, je tato doba jako skok do ledové vody. Teď by měly běžet slajdy našich sponzorů, které uvidíte asi později. Finský ateliér AVANTO z Helsinek, který se vám za chvíli představí, má také logo, nebo se představí kruhovým logem. Věříme, že nás tento nečekaný skok do neznáma, skok do ledové vody, všechny posílí a posune k lepšímu. AVANTO se věnují stavbám veřejného charakteru, jako je například oceňovaná stavba sauny na nábřeží Helsinek, která přispěla k rozvoji celé oblasti, nebo vyhlídková věž taktéž v Helsinkách či stavba kaple svatého Vavřince ve městě Vantaa. Mezi realizace ateliéru AVANTO patří ale i stavby, které máme spojeny se severskou architekturou. Chaty a domy převážně z přírodních materiálů a někdy i bez připojení na jakékoliv sítě. Na realizaci této přednášky se podílí nejen celý tým Kruhu, kterým tímto děkuji, ale i prostor kempu a naši partneři, kterým taktéž patří náš dík a jejíž loga můžete vidět na svých obrazovkách. Naše projekty můžete podpořit nákupem virtuální vstupenky na GoOutu. Za vaši podporu a přízeň vám předem děkujeme. Všechny aktuality o naší činnosti můžete sledovat i na našem Facebooku či Instagramu. Za chviličku si pustíme naše krátká videa, jednak nového generálního partnera firmy Koma a našich hlavních partnerů. Děkuji, že nás sledujete a po videích se pozveme zakladatele firmy AVANTO k přednášce.
Stories are invaluable. They stem from the myths of our world, home of the birds of paradise. From their loved ants, offsprings are born. The origin of life, of every story, and faith, nature, metamorphosis, journey, and humility. In the memories of the cathedral, both good and bad times emerge. The struggle keeps the world changing forever, and the sun gives hope that after each night, a new day begins. Hence, the writer doesn't hurry, writing towards a dream that becomes reality. Everybody has visions and ideas. Everyone looks up towards the future where living and lifeless, nature and technology unite. Only equilibrium provides happiness and freedom, to be found in the responsibility for one's own destiny and for the entire world.
We are part of a living ecosystem. We can walk everywhere we want. We can walk through all the miracles Earth gives us. Mountains, forests, white beaches, while the sun sets. But the soil under our feet is changing. Forests are being cut, the glaciers are melting, the sea level rises, and still we emit more CO2 each and every year. Guess what? Every step we take results in another. The way we run our factories, how we choose our ingredients, every single decision has impact. That is why we make our linoleum floor covering from natural renewable resources. It is the only true CO2 neutral resilient flooring. For us, making linoleum is a co-creation with nature. And because of its durability, you, your kids, and next generations can walk in it for years. So we ask you, which step do you take?
Nyní je mi ctí představit ateliér AVANTO, konkrétně zakladatele firmy architekta Ville Hara, kterého zde vítám a jemuž předávám slovo. Hello, Will. Do you hear
Hello.
me? Hi. Welcome in our virtual hall in Czech Republic. It's
Thank you very much.
quite nice to see your studio also. Very wide.
Yes. Actually, my business partner, Anu, is working behind the other computer right there.
So hello. So it's now your turn, and we are looking forward to hear your presentation. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you very much. Nice that you are having me this evening. Nice to be part of this lecture series, and I tried to understand the introduction you were doing. I don't know if I understood everything, but we were talking about this logo, which is actually really interesting because it's very similar to your logo. And but it has also another meaning, and it is actually AVANTO. Do you know what AVANTO means? Yes, it's the hole in the ice, like that we do in winter in Finland to take a bath. It's a very popular hobby, and both me and Anu, actually it's me and Anu and in the picture swimming from our sauna löyly, and this AVANTO is our company name because we want that our architecture is very refreshing, like dipping to the ice cold water, you really feel something. And we want that our architecture also creates very memorable emotions, something that really excites you. And we also want that there is AVANTO's holes in the ice in the future. So sustainability is also very important for us. So this is why we are called AVANTO Architects. And we are a very small company that is located in the inner city of Helsinki, the capital of Finland. And we are in an old industrial building with a loft spaces. And this is our office inside. Here we are working. And maybe we go right to the point, and I will present quite many projects of ours, and this is how I also tell about our design philosophy. As I told in the beginning, we are called AVANTO because we want that our architecture is something that affects you, that you get some kind of emotion out of our architecture. And a very good example of this is a chapel of St. Lawrence. We were actually quite young when we participated in this competition. And in Finland, we have this tradition of open competitions, so anybody can participate in a competition. You don't even need to be architect or student of architecture to participate, but of course it helps quite a lot if you know something about architecture. So even my grandmother could actually be taking part of the competition. And this is very fair system because you judge only the quality of the anonymous entries. So you really don't know who is behind the entry. And this is how a lot of young offices in Finland have started their career when they have won an open competition. And this happened to us as well. We wanted to study how you can help people who have lost somebody. Like if you lose your family member, you feel really a lot of sorrow, and the situation, like the funerary service, is very difficult. And we wanted to study how you can make people feel a little bit better, or how you can somehow help people in this difficult situation. And this is why we participated in this competition. Even though Anu was still a student, I had been just graduated, so we were very young, and we thought that we have absolutely no possibility of winning. So it was even our own professors were participating in the competition, and there were like 200 entries. So it was really kind of shock to hear that we had won the competition and we needed to start our own office. It was, of course, happy news, but quite surprising. But in this competition, we thought that because the site is very, very special, there is kind of medieval church very near the competition area. And in Finland, we don't have so much history as you do. We have very few historic buildings. So we thought that absolutely we cannot compete with the medieval building, but we need to make something that is really like secondary and doesn't like scream in this historic setting. And our idea was that we border, in the middle you see the chapel, and the idea was that we border the cemetery that is left from our chapel by building orthogonal walls, like in a 90-degree angle. And as you can see in the upper left corner of the image, this theme of orthogonal walls is really already existing on the site. So we were kind of continuing the historic theme. And by doing these orthogonal walls, we could also separate the service traffic that is on the right-hand side in the image. And there's like tractors that take care of the cemetery area, and they make a lot of noise, and they are not like visually very pleasing. So by adding this new building, we could somehow make a border for the north side of the ceremony. cemetery, sorry. And the building was divided in 3 different masses. There is the big chapel room, chapel hall, small chapel hall, and then urn delivery room. And as a counterpart of this composition of 3 masses, there is the bell tower. And here you can see the materials that we were using. Our idea was that we don't introduce modern materials to the area that is very historic and fragile. So we used patinated copper, like in the roof of the medieval church. We used rendered brick, like brick that is covered with some mortar. And then we used natural stones that actually were excavated from the building site. So it's kind of very locally sourced material. And then we introduced a kind of new use of a traditional material, which is the copper mesh. And here you can see the chapel plan. I'm not sure if you see my mouse on the screen, but these orthogonal walls, they create always this right angle in the plan. And the idea is that you approach from the left-hand side, you follow this long wall, then you turn to an entrance garden, you come to the waiting room or waiting hall or entrance hall, and then you walk this corridor. There is always natural light that guides your way on the ceiling, and then you come to the chapel hall, and there the path turns. Our competition entry was called path, polku in Finnish, and the idea is that in this most sacral space, the path turns 90 degrees, and it's a kind of symbol for us, because in Christian belief, you know that when life ends, it actually doesn't end, it just changes direction. You live in the heaven, so you have kind of eternal life. So in this floor plan, this 90-degree angle turning is symbol that the path now changes the direction, but the path still goes on. And after the chapel hall, you go out through a beautiful garden that is also kind of symbol for us. Like it's like in Psalm, they write about the kind of garden that makes you feel better in the sorrow. And then you go to the cemetery area. And the same path is repeated in the small chapel hall and also in the urn delivery room. Here you can see the section of the chapel. In chapel design, it's very important that the different traffic flows don't collide. So all the service traffic is pushed underground, so you can freely move around without any kind of disturbance for the people that are on the ground floor. And we had very, very intelligent client. She was the engineer of the parish, and she said that once we build something, it has to be something that is long-lasting. And this is also like one very important part of sustainability. Like if you look at the medieval church in the picture, it's still standing there and it's perfectly safe and healthy building. There is no mold in the structures because they are made of massive brick walls. This is how we decided to make our walls also out of massive brick. Interesting thing is that legislation nowadays doesn't allow this kind of massive structures because there is no insulation inside. So if you calculate the U value or energy value is not good enough in this kind of massive brick wall. But we know from experience that there's a lot of houses with massive brick walls in Helsinki city center, and they are perfectly warm in the winter. So actually, because their massiveness, they store heat, and they work much better than in theory. And because we wanted to build our aim was to build a house or a building that lasts at least 200 years, we couldn't use any modern technology like concrete elements because we don't know how they age. Nobody has any experience for 200 years yet because the technology is very new. So this is why we use these massive brick walls. And we got a special permission from building authority that we can use this kind of structure that doesn't is not actually in Finnish laws allowed, but we got a special permission because we were in such a unique historic setting. And also important thing of the building is that everything is kind of crafted, everything is made by hand. And this is very seldom nowadays in Finland because building industry has become real like industry, and you don't lay bricks by hand anymore, but you have kind of ready elements that you just compile on the building site. And unfortunately, this is often visible in the end result. Our bricklayer that is in the picture, he was really happy to work on the building site. He said that even though he has been laying bricks for 20 years, this is the first time he was allowed to do a real brick wall. So it was really nice to work with these people. And as we got the possibility to make our first building as a result of an open competition, we wanted to play fair for the artists and artworks for the chapel. Our aim was that it's totally open for anybody, so we got a lot of entries, and we kind of wished that some like young talents come up that haven't done any public art before. But unfortunately, or I don't know if it's unfortunately, the two winners that we selected were like very famous sculptures that have made a lot of public art. In this picture, you can see Pertti Kukkonen. He's laying bricks or molding bricks that are specially formed for this artwork. Like first you make the form, then you cut it into bricks. Then you fire the bricks. Every brick has a number, so you know in which place of the building it's going or artwork it's going. And here you can see how they are put as a part of the wall structure. And it was really important for us that art is not a kind of separate piece that you just hang on the wall like a painting or something that is separate from the surroundings, but art and architecture unite so that you actually cannot tell where is the limit between these two. And this really, we succeeded very well in this. The second prize in the competition went for Pekka Jylhä, that is working on glass or using glass as a material and crystal, like here. This crystal piece is several meters high, so the pieces of crystal are like size of a football. And it was funny because we asked the artists to do scale models as part of the competition entry. And of course, when you make this 1 to 20, it looks like a Barbie house with a lot of bling bling and glitter. So it looked very kitschy, and we didn't like it at first, but it really needed some time to understand how wonderful it's in real life. Here is another piece by Pekka Jylhä on progress. And we were very lucky to have a very good client because we designed everything in the building by ourselves, even the door hinges. And it was we learned so much working with these people, working with their own hands. Here you can see, for example, the blacksmith and a prototype for the door handle. So we were doing like special made door handles for the project, not using any commercial products. And we even designed the luminaires, the lamps for the chapel. And here you can see our lighting designer, Tulao Shakir. And we were testing the lamps in our toilet because it was the only like dark space in our office where we were working at that time. And Anu is holding the lamp there. And even the vases for flowers during the ceremony were specially made for this building. And of course, blowing glass is really like something like magical, how it comes out. And it was always Anu who wanted to go to the factory to see how they make it. And she was always taking a lot of pictures. I guess, I don't know why, maybe you can guess. And here you can see the mold and firing after taking out from the mold. And it's funny, like if you make 10 pieces, maybe one of them is good enough to be used as a final product. And here our interior designer is examining the ready product and seeing if it's good enough. We were using a lot of models or mock-ups to study different pieces, like the bench. First, we made kind of cardboard scale models. Then we made one-to-one pieces that we tested on the site. And it was very important that they were all the clients' representatives, like the ones who are really going to use the building, so they could have a say about how they like it and what could be changed. And we learned quite many lessons about this. For example, in this picture, you can see a hook that was meant for the coats, that you can put your coat in the hook. And then when you leave the chapel hall to the cemetery, you take the coat with you from the hook. But when we were testing this bench, we understood that actually you hit your knee there, and because it's very sharp, it's not very pleasant, so we removed these hooks. So there was always a lesson. The project was extremely long. When we started, we were like students, and our client was really like shocked at how is she going to, actually the client is in the picture on the left-hand side, and she was thinking like, how can I work with these kids? But when the project finished, 10 years had already gone. so it was very, very long process for us, but we actually enjoyed that it was so long because we could do everything as well as we can, and we didn't need to kind of lower our standards. But finally, when we got something ready, we always celebrated the moment and tested, like here the benches. And here the carpenters were testing their bench as well. And now we make a tour of the ready building. In the picture, you can see the chapel in the winter time, and you can see the horizontal long wall that is actually a kind of symbol for us. It's a symbol of life here on the earth. And then when the long wall ends, it turns upwards. So the bell tower is a symbol of turning point in your life when you die or you are deceased. And in between outside and inside, there is a kind of in-between space that is the entrance courtyard that has a kind of small pool of water that is mirroring the surroundings. This in-between space is very important because when you have lost somebody and you are going to the ceremony, you might be even like panicking and you need some time to adapt to the next situation. When you turn from the path cross the entrance courtyard, you have some time to put yourself together so that you are ready to meet other people who are waiting in the waiting hall. And here you can see the bench where you sit in the waiting hall. It's also a symbol for us. You turn 180 degrees when you go to sit there, and you look back physically. You look physically back to the direction where you came from, but you also look back mentally, and you think about the time that you were spending with the person you have lost. And the space is very intimate. It's very low space, and it's dimly lit, so you feel kind of safe, and the space comforts you. And all the materials are natural. There's natural wood, natural stone, and hand-patinated copper in the ceiling. We even designed these clocks on the wall because we felt that clock is a very important symbol of time. So it was very important for us to design even these small details. And here you can see the effect of the light that is coming from the ceiling. We didn't want to put any kind of signs in the walls that this way you go to the chapel hall, but we felt that we want to somehow guide people by the means of architecture. And somehow when you see this light on the wall, you know that this is the way you should go. It guides you. And here you can see the corridor between the waiting room and the chapel hall. It's not just a corridor, wasted space. It's again important in-between space between two different spaces. And it also gives you acoustic distance, so that there's often kind of ceremony going on in the hall, and the next people are already gathering in the waiting hall. And you should never have a kind of feeling in a funerary service that you are in a hurry, somebody else is waiting their turn, and you need to kind of be quick with the ceremony so that you get out and the next people can enter. So you really need your time and privacy. And when you enter the chapel hall, it's very different from the entrance hall. It's very high space. There's much more light. Even the acoustics is different. The acoustic, it's much harder, and there's much more echo. And you can see how the space changes during different times of the year, different times of the day, and even different weather conditions. And here you can see the ready artwork by Pekka Jylhä. Actually, it's an abstract cross with the vertical and horizontal elements. And when you enter, you see these two together. So it's kind of very, very, very abstract Christian symbol. And we even hided the holders for the numbers for the songs. So there's kind of magnet inside the brick wall, and it's plastered, so you don't really see them, and all the numbers are just put on the wall. So it's a very kind of simple detail. And here you can see the curtain between the chapel hall and the exit garden, and it's made of the copper mesh. And for us, it's again important symbol. We call it the curtain of unknown, because you can see through, you see something, you know that there's something on the other side, but you don't see quite clearly what it is, but you know that there is something. And from outside, it looks like this. The small hall is very similar to the big hall. We wanted that it has the same dignity, but it's just smaller in size. And on the back wall, you can see this copper mesh that was hand patinated. It was quite interesting when it was put to a roll, this copper mesh dipped to a liquid and then taken out and let dry. And of course, in the lower part of the roll, there was the more or longer time the liquid, so the patina was much more blue. And first we thought that when we opened the rolls that, oh, these are not like uniform, these are all like wrong. But then we understood that actually it's very beautiful detail. It shows how it's done. This is the urn delivery room where we have used very thick walls to make recesses where you can position or put these urns that are waiting to be picked up. And the urn that is currently being picked up is put on this wooden table or pedestal. And again, it's an important symbol for us. It's a symbol of time. You can see how this wooden block that is made of one single tree trunk, it's cracking and it's changing all the time in time. And also you can see how many year rings there are, so you can count how old the tree was when it was cut. Outside of the urn delivery room, there's a very small courtyard that is totally closed. It's almost like a Japanese-style courtyard, totally closed and no views to the surroundings, but it gives you calmness that you need in this situation. And here you see how this copper mesh works from outside. You have totally privacy. You cannot see what is happening inside. The same in the winter time. And there were a piece of art also integrated in the wall that is made of these massive bricks. And the massive bricks were laid in a cross form so that they make kind of crosses, the brick pattern. And some of these crosses are actually filled with light transmitting concrete. And this piece of art only comes visible in the nighttime. You cannot see it during the daytime because it's plastered. So the light comes through the plaster. And Pekka Jylhä called this piece of art spirits. And the spirits are kind of guiding your way to the hall. And here you can see the ready glasswork by Pekka Jylhä. It was quite interesting to see how he was gluing these very, very heavy glass pieces on a concrete wall because he didn't allow to put any kind of piece of metal or like stud inside the glass because it would look ugly. And the whole staircase was made of white concrete. We were warned by some of our colleagues that we are kind of like too ambitious and we are like challenging the builders too much. And in Finland, making in situ cast concrete on the building site, it just doesn't work because the quality of construction is not like in Switzerland, for example. But we thought that if we don't ask anything, then they will never learn anything. So we thought that we take this challenge. And first time they did the staircase, it didn't come out very nicely. And then we said that you need to demolish it all. And they were like, are you crazy? Do you know like how it's like thick concrete and it's very difficult to kind of dismantle it and it takes a lot of time and money. But because we insisted, then they built it again, and this time it was perfect. And here is the room that is very important. It's the room where you meet the person you have lost for the first time. So the coffin is in the middle of the room, and the lid or cover of the coffin is put into this table that is visible in the picture. The space was made very kind of well insulated so that you can express your feelings. You can even shout if you want. Nobody can hear you because the doors are very well insulating, so you have your privacy. And here the artwork was very, very important because the architecture was very minimalistic. Of course, there's kind of light coming. This is underground, but there's light coming through the opening in the roof. But I think this piece of with crystals that you saw in the making before, it really brings a lot of joy because the white light that comes to the crystals, the crystal break the white light, and you have all the rainbow colors on the walls. And this is how you somehow get hope in this situation that is actually the most difficult situation of this process of getting kind of over what has happened. We have made several like designs concerning like death. We are somehow obsessed with the idea. When tsunami hit Thailand, Finnish people were the second biggest foreign group that were dead in the disaster. And it was a very big thing for us Finns. So we wanted to participate tsunami memorial competition. This is from the area where the memorial should be, and we were really like struggling with the assignment because we thought that whatever memorial you make, it really doesn't help at all. If you have lost whole your family, no memorial can really comfort you. But also we were struggling with the site that is kind of rainforest. We didn't want to build anything huge. They were asking for museums and conference centers, restaurants, and so on. But we didn't feel that you can build anything in this very precious rainforest. And our landscape architect said that not any of these valuable trees should be cut. Finally, we came to a result that actually our memorial will be something ephemeral, that you pick. There's a lot of bamboo that grows on the side, and bamboo grows very fast. So you can take a leaf and fold it to a boat like this. And we were very surprised when we heard that this thing that we do a lot in Finland as children, it's actually a tradition also in Thailand. And when you have the boat folded on the side, then you put it to the water, and the stream, there's a kind of small brook or river going through the side. The water current will take the boat away, and this is how you can see that there's other people as well who are putting the boat to the water. You are not alone in this difficult situation, and this is how you get some comfort. We needed to do also all these buildings they were asking for, but we put them just next to the road so that we didn't need to cut the rainforest. And we studied the traditional building methods very carefully, how they elevate the buildings from the ground because it's very moist, how you always have a very steep pitched roof, how you have all spaces under one big roof that is kind of all embracing roof, and then you have exterior and interior spaces below it, and how you use local building materials, and even how you kind of make buildings out of this kind of elements. Like in the picture, you can see these panels are they are like elements that they use. And here you can see the scale model. And we even made detailed design because we got to the second stage of the competition. But unfortunately, we didn't win this time, so we were second at the end. But we felt that this is the right approach to have some kind of personal act and not to build some kind of megaloman building. I think this our architecture is always very site-specific. You could see in the previous project, but also in this one, I will present Kupla Lookout Tower in Helsinki Zoo. It was my first building that was ever built. It was a student competition at Helsinki University of Technology. And there, the assignment was to make a 10-meter high wooden tower in the zoo. And this is the first sketch where you can see kind of the free-form stone wall going around the side, some young birch trees that I wanted to preserve, and then a very powerful view to the sea. And actually, when you put all these things together, you get this kind of free form. During the competition time, I was struggling with the form, and I think the end result was quite crappy. Here is the competition perspective. It was very sketch-like. Nobody knew if it can be built or not, but it's actually a very good starting point for this wood studio course or wood program nowadays, because the idea is to kind of study new ways of using wood or innovative wood structures. Funnily, at that time, the atmosphere in Finland in architecture was very conservative, and all this kind of free forms were seen as prohibited. So I really needed to give reasons why to use free forms. This is actually one of the earliest pictures of me, or it's my mother. I'm inside the belly, but I feel that free forms, they are somehow humane, or you feel related to them. In nature, you have free forms in all different scales, from stars that are, or planets that are formed when mass is drawing mass towards itself, so it becomes a kind of solid planet, or cells that are very simple pneumatic structures. And nature uses this kind of balloon-like shapes a lot because it's very economical. You get the maximum volume inside, and it's durable. And also nature uses a lot of shell structures like eggshell. You think it's very, very thin, but still it's very durable. And grit shell is something that is used a lot also in like primitive cultures and the traditional building methods, because it's a good way to economize with building material. We were studying the tower as a group work, making 3D models, but I think most things we learned using scale models. And here's 1:20 model, and the most important lesson was making this 1:5 model, and we were really struggling. As you can see maybe in the picture, there's like some pieces of wood that have been broken, and we have just put some tape there, and we needed to moisturize the wood with water so that it doesn't break so easily. But we saw that there's a lot of problems we need to solve. Unfortunately, the course ended in half a year, and I continued the work as my diploma project, studying the structure, making one-to-one pieces and testing them, testing the joints that needed to be very simple because there were more than 700 of them, also very cheap because the budget was zero. There was no money involved, and every single bolt or washer that we were using needed to be got from a sponsor. And finally, 2002, we built the tower with other students, and that was quite a lot of learning for me. The biggest lesson came from this kind of steaming, because we had 7 pre-bent types of these battens that were laminated to form, but we needed still twist them to the final form on the side. So we used steam like in traditional boat building. And here you can see the ready structure that really disappears. You cannot, now when it has turned gray, you don't even see it from the Helsinki city center. So it's kind of very delicate landmark. And here you can see how you have like 360-degree view from the uppermost level. And only in the nighttime, when the lights are put on, then it becomes like a landmark for the zoo. And most interesting thing for me is to go there and listen what the children say, because I think the children are the client of this project. They have very interesting theories, like how normally in zoo animals are imprisoned, but now we feel as human beings how it's to be inside a cage, or how it's like a huge balloon or something. So when they have a kind of this kind of comments, or when the architecture makes some kind of sensations or feelings for them, then I think that architect has succeeded. It's not something that you just see and forget. Talking about sustainability is something that I hate because everybody's talking and talking and talking, and it's mostly like greenwashing, and there's no real sustainability behind. In Finland, country cottage is a very big thing. Most families have a country cottage where they go in the summertime. And this is something I wanted to study, because nowadays the country cottages are kind of one-family houses. They have all the modern comforts, they have electricity, they have running water and so on. So actually you double your carbon footprint for living, because you have one house in the city or apartment, and then you have this summer house that is kind of heated all year round, so that the pipes don't get frozen and broken. So I thought that this is not how you can do it, and I want to show example how you can do it better. So I built my own cottage on an island in Virrat. It's in the middle of nowhere in Finland. It's on an island, so you need to go there by boat. And the nearest shop is 30 kilometers away, so it's really in the middle of the forest. And it got very interesting form, because there was not like one single view that was dominant, but four very different views. And you can see, like from the east, the morning light comes to the breakfast table. In the midday, you have a light in the lunch table, and in the evening in the sitting room. But you never get direct sunlight to the bedroom, so it stays cool and pleasant even in summer heat. And this is how it kind of adapts to the natural settings. And it has a lot of cliches of modern architecture. It's totally like a black box, inside totally white. It has a flat roof. And when I presented the design to the local building inspector, he was horrified. He said that, oh my God, that this is the ugliest house he has ever seen. And he pities the poor client. But when I said that I'm building this house for myself, then he said, okay, you do what you want. I don't care. They really didn't understand this kind of aesthetics. There's even like double doors that when you open, the interior and exterior become like one, or there's no limit between them, like in Japanese architecture. And here you can see the two stoves that are used for heating the building. There is no other heating method. So when you go there in winter, it's minus 20 inside. But because you have two very good fireplaces, it heats up very fast. And this is quite in the beginning when there was not so much furniture yet, but you can already see the idea that architecture is not the thing that is like some kind of object in itself, but it's more like a vehicle to how to look to the surroundings. So it's kind of framing views outside. and the bedroom. And of course, you were thinking like if there's no running water where you wash yourself, of course you do it in sauna because we are in Finland. So this sauna building, it has a big stove again to heat the sauna space and the water tank. And then you go to the lake to swim, even in winter time. And the funny thing that when we were kind of planning the cottage, we were staying 2 whole summers in this barrack that was on the site already, and it was pulled there in 60s, and maybe somebody was using it for some short stays. But I think it was very interesting to spend like 2 years time there, and there were like maximum 5 people and 2 dogs inside, and it was a storage space and a living space at the same time. And I really had a good time and I was really happy there. So I was thinking like, do we really need anything else? We had our kitchen for barbecue. We had our toilet. Yes, this is the toilet. It had already collapsed, but we decided when I was dismantling it or demolishing it, we thought that maybe it can still serve for a couple of years more, but it was a bit scary to use it, to tell the truth. And now there's a new one. And here's the firewood that I have made with my own hands, which I'm very proud of. And you can grow own herbs and vegetables there. So you actually you don't need to go to shop. You go maximum once a week because you are really like off-grid and self-sufficient there. And you can even get a lot of fish and crayfish from the lake. It's very well known for being very, very good place for fishing. In the picture, you see the only thing that you need to go to get in the city, and it's the wine that we cannot grow in Finland. It's too cold. And it may sound like a cliche, but both Anu and I, we really enjoy nature, and we think it's fair that you give this kind of possibility to enjoy nature for future generations as well. After this cottage project, a lot of people were saying that they would love to have something like cottage, but they don't have any plot of land. So we were thinking how to bring this kind of lifestyle of health and sustainability to cities. And we designed this kind of green shed for a Finnish company called Kekkilä. And the idea was to combine a storage and greenhouse into one product. And you can combine these modules as you want so that you can make your dream green shed as you want, whatever you prefer, if you like to grow more or if you need more need for storage. And it came out really nicely. And we designed it in a group of designers, and the co-designer Linda Bergerud actually put one cottage as her own country cottage. And here you can see the storage, how it works. It's like a toolbox. You open the double doors. So the problem of sheds that people just put everything inside, and it's very hard to find anything inside after that. That is eliminated because everything is visible. And the greenhouse part was used as a very, very minimalistic country cottage, even more minimalistic than mine. And it's really like being part of the nature. We think that being architect is very interesting because we can affect people's quality of life and their well-being. That's our mission, that we can bring people joy and happiness. Often in this housing building design projects, we think that if we make like one family house, we cannot really affect big things because we affect mostly the quality of life for one family only. So we are very interested in urban planning as well. And this is, I will show it only very shortly, but we were asked to renew the image of a very problematic suburb in Espoo that is sitting next to Helsinki. It's dominated by immigrants, and the city said that what we should do is just to demolish everything there is, all the existing houses, and build something more fancy there, so it's more expensive, and these problematic people cannot afford it. But and then the problem is solved. But we thought that that is not really the thing. Like, you cannot think like that. First of all, if we would demolish everything, all the houses, what would these residents in the nearby houses think? They would think that their house has no value at all. Their surroundings has no value at all. We thought that having immigrants, it's maybe not a problem. It might be actually a very positive thing, and we should kind of make something positive out of it. So we kept, unlike the client wanted, all the existing houses, and we made them even higher. So we were mixing different scales. We made very big houses. Then we had this in-between scale, that is the house going around the site with free form. And then we had very small scale, like townhouses. So it was a mix of scale. We could also mix of different economic classes, because these penthouses that are put on top of the existing buildings, they are kind of fantastic houses that have very big roof terraces and wonderful views over the city. So you have a mix of economical classes or different social classes, and you have a mix of different forms. So we were kind of mixing it all up. And this is how it came out, and we paid a lot of attention to the outdoor spaces as well. But when the builders saw the design, they thought it's much too challenging, so we needed to make a lot of new variations. And finally, they said that this is what they accept. Because it's very easy to build this kind of point houses, and you have just one elevator, so it's you make a lot of profit. It's kind of a bit sad that in Finland the construction companies have so much power that they can decide what kind of surroundings people get. But we tried to keep some elements of our previous design, so we thought that if we don't have any money to use for the building design, what we can do is to use color to tell the story about this multicultural area that doesn't cost any more money than making white buildings or gray buildings. And we designed a community house in the middle that can be used also auditorium. We thought that people need some kind of places to gather. I started showing the chapel that is an example of a ritual that when you go from one space to another and in between spaces. But this kind of ritual space is also Finnish sauna. It's very important part of Finnish culture. And we participated a competition for young designers in a Habitare furniture fair to make a new kind of sauna building, and the area was given like 5 by 6 meters and 3 meter height. So we used it all and filled it with a kind of sequence of spaces. So there's kind of a dressing room, shower room, and sauna room. And in this kind of semi-outside spaces, you have a furo where you can take a Japanese-style bath, or children can bath while the parents are taking sauna bath. And then you have a fireplace on the upper right-hand corner. And again, the furniture fair was there only 4 days. So we thought that it's not very sustainable to make something that lasts for 4 days and then goes to rubbish bin. So we decided to use very massive wood, but because we got very beautiful logs like this, we decided that we will not cut them at all in the corners, but we will just put them together using this kind of wooden pegs. And this is how you can reuse the same wood material afterwards and do something totally different out of the material. And here you can see how the corner came out, that there is not this kind of joint, how you normally join wooden locks. And here you can see from outside it's very closed. There's the fireplace for barbecue, and there's very narrow entrance opening where you take 2 steps up. Every time you move from one space to another, you take a step up, and the ceiling is always staying the same height. So the space becomes lower and lower all the time. Here you leave your clothes, take a birch whisk for beating yourself in the sauna room. Then you take a shower and you go to the sauna. We didn't get permission to put it into operation during the furniture fair, but we were really surprised happily that the people who entered the sauna, they really felt like what we had been planning in the beginning. We thought that we hate like furniture fairs or all kind of fairs because you don't know if it's a night or a day. There's these terrible lights, fluorescent lights, and there's the smell of plastic everywhere, and it's very noisy, and you have a lot of kind of visual kind of disturbance everywhere. Everybody wants to get your attention, so you get so tired. And we thought that we want to give them a small moment of peace during the fair, and it worked really well because people took out the shoes so they could feel the fresh wood, they could smell the cut wood, and when they closed the sauna door, it was totally silent, so they could have their quiet space, and you could see how they really like relaxed when they were like leaning towards the back wall, and they even told some kind of very intimate memories about their childhood. And we thought that, okay, now we have succeeded because they are really enjoying the moment. That was kind of photoshopping how it could be in the real life when put to the nature. And we made a version of this sauna for Finnish pavilion in Shanghai World Exhibition. The problem, we were asked to do exactly the same sauna, but the problem was that the pavilion was very lightweight steel structure, so it couldn't carry the heavy weight of the massive wood. And as our project was based on using like a real material, massive wood, what was the answer? Our carpenter invented that we make kind of hollow rocks, hollow locks. And first we thought the idea is not very good because our idea is to have massive wood and real material, but actually when you put it together like this, you see how it's done. It's not, we don't try to hide it. And it's very well insulating for heat in the sauna. So it functions really well. And we were actually quite happy with the end result. Here's the showers and the sauna room. And the surroundings was really dark. So it was like floating object in the space. And our one of the most recent sauna projects we have done is Löyly, that is marked in the map using the blue point. The special thing about Helsinki is that it's half island, so you have sea everywhere you go, and you have from this spot you have views to the open sea, which is really fantastic because you are still like walking distance from railway station. Now the area is all these industrial buildings in the area are being demolished. It's an old port area, and they are building a housing area. But that will take like 20 years. So the idea to make a sauna there came from the city of Helsinki. And there's this kind of strip of park going all through Helsinki coastline. And here it's very, very narrow, the park area. So we didn't want to block it with a big building, but we pushed the building as narrow as possible and also as low as possible, so as not to block the views from the houses that are coming behind our building in the future. And you can see that in this park design, there are some kind of artificial hills because it's all kind of landfill, artificial land. So we were continuing the theme of the hills, making kind of our building more like a artificial topography than a traditional box-like building. And the architectural idea is very simple. There's a very simple box containing all the spaces and all the warm spaces, and around it there is this kind of free-form wooden cloak, as we call this structure. And our clients were very brave. They are two young guys, Antero Vartija, who was the owner of a bar at that time and was making campaign to be a member of parliament, which actually he succeeded during the process. That took also quite a long time. He's on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side, there is Jasper Pääkkönen, who is a very famous Finnish actor that is in the new Spike Lee movie, for example. And they were crazy enough to go to a bank and ask, like, could we get 6 million euros? We are making a sauna. And of course, these businessmen with a suit and tie, they were like laughing, are you crazy? Like, make a 6 million sauna, you must be out of your mind. But they really believed in the project and gave us free hands. We made, again, a lot of models and tested the lighting. And we used a very special material that is called Next Timber. It's a sustainable wood product that is made of the tree trunks that grow in the forest and need to be cut away to make space for the tree trunks that will stay there and grow as a bigger tree. So when you harvest the extra trees away, this kind of tree is normally used for making pulp or paper because it's too small in dimension. But here, these small tree trunks were kind of glued into a massive wood product, and it was kind of heat treated so that it can resist the weather without any surface treatment. Here are the foundations and making of the walls. Some of the walls were cast on the site out of concrete and some were made from the elements. And the cloak, the freeform structure going around the building, had a steel structure, and then it was covered with wood. And that was very laborious because we had more than 4,000 separate pieces of wood in the project, and more than 2,000 out of them were different or like unique in shape. So they all had number and they had to be put exactly to the right position and place so that it works. So it was quite a project. And then again, when we were finally ready, then we celebrated putting fire to the oven. And here you can see Antero Vartija wearing suit and tie. So he was elected to the parliament for Green Party. And you can see Jasper Pääkkönen with very different look than in the previous picture. He's having a big beard and Mohican hairdo. He was actor in the Vikings series at that time. And here's the ready project. You can see how popular it is. Even though the area is really like a no-go area, it used to be almost like scary area when you go there running in the evening time because there was absolutely nothing, only some weird people. So we are really happy that with architecture, making like a small project like this, we can change the image of a whole area. So it's a very good starting point for the new urban design. And people really love climbing the building and going on top of it. somebody said it's the biggest terrace in Helsinki. I'm not sure if it's true, but it might be. It's a very big terrace, and it's partly even on top of the water. And there's some openings to have some kind of direct views from the inside. And this is the in-between space between inside and outside. So you have this kind of covered outdoor spaces where you can chill out in between your sauna sessions. And this cloak works like Venetian blinds. From outside, you don't see in, but from in, you see out. So you have your privacy during your sauna session. And here is the way to the entrance, the main entrance, and the restaurant area. And the back wall was made with leftover pieces of this wooden covering. And the toilets, cloakrooms. And now you go to the spa section. All the spaces are, all the closed spaces are gathered in the kind of spaces inside the space. So they are like building blocks, and you have interesting views through the building. And it's a bit like messy, even the layout, so you easily lose your orientation, which was intentional because we wanted that it's kind of social space and people interact with each other and ask for directions, for example. And here is the big sauna that is called landscape sauna, because you have very nice view with the big window outside. And the shower spaces, they are very kind of dimly lit, almost like sacral spaces with black concrete surfaces. And here is the so-called continuously heated sauna. So there is all the time heat in the stove when you are taking your sauna bath. And then this is the way to the our most interesting sauna, which is the smoke sauna. So the traditional smoke sauna, you don't have any chimney, but when you make fire in this oven, all the smoke comes in, and this is why all the surfaces become totally black. This picture is quite in the beginning, so the surfaces are not so dark yet. But you never take sauna baths while they are heating the sauna. After the heating, you let the fire die out, and then the surfaces are washed so that you can sit there without being totally dirty. But if you touch, for example, the ceiling, it's full of soo that makes everything black. It's a very traditional, it's the most traditional way of having sauna, and we think it's the best. And here is the fireplace room where you can gather in between sauna sessions, and the fire makes a nice atmosphere. And the space is all open. You can go there without buying anything or buying any ticket or using the sauna. It's part of the park and landscape. And it's very popular even when the building is closed. And some winter images. Taking the dip in the ice cold water. There was no ice yet. And Anu is showing how to do the winter swimming here. And I'm joining her in this picture. And this is how you feel afterwards. When Finland turned 100 years old, we were asked to make a sauna in Hong Kong. And the idea was that we bring a moment of peace in this very hectic megaloman city. And we made this kind of project where you have kind of very free-form space inside a very box-like wooden massive building. And people really loved that there is some kind of real wood that you can touch with your hands, because in Hong Kong, everything is aluminum, plastic, artificial. There's nothing real. And people really loved the sauna also. It was very Instagrammable, as you can see here. The space is very interesting inside. But our idea, how you use the space and how you kind of gather there and you have your moment of peace, it didn't really work out. Because as you can see in this picture, people were given 5 minutes to use the sauna, not like 5 hours, as we might do in Finland. So you didn't have time even to undress or change your clothes, but they just took the bathrobe and put it on top of other clothes and take a selfie, and that was it. So we were a bit naive that we were thinking that we can bring part of our culture there. And you can see that they even took like wedding pictures inside. Yes, that was actually the last project, but I show still like what we are doing right now. We won an invited competition for a spa hotel in Helsinki, very near the city. So this is what we are doing now. We are developing the project further after the winning. And again, we have very similar themes as before. We have wooden surfaces, real fire where people can gather around, and this kind of social aspect because it's a very big building in a coast area. We don't want to privatize the area, but we want that it's more like a local hub for the local citizens. And you definitely have a very nice view from inside to the surroundings. So that is actually everything. We feel free to visit our website and to see more, or follow us in Facebook or Instagram. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your lecture. We are lucky that technically we made it.
Yes.
So sorry for that. We are sorry to our audience also for technical problems. I will skip to the Czech language for a while, if you don't mind. Děkujeme moc za pozornost, děkujeme, že jste se zúčastnili, děkujeme těm, co přispěli, protože to je neuvěřitelné, že jste nás podpořili i pro online přednášku. A než znesu první dotazy, které máte možnost dávat na Slido, zvu vás na další online večer Kruhu o architektuře, a to za 14 dní ve čtvrtek 4. června, kdy vystoupí norský ateliér Opaform s názvem přednášky Experimenty jako stavební technika. Na podzim se již doufám potkáme všichni, a to jak na festivalu Den architektury, Filmá architektura nebo přednášky pokračující severské architektury. A teď už k dotazům. Máme tady první dotaz. Hello, there is a first question on you.
Okay.
Hello, how you work with public spaces in your projects? Yeah, it's quite
difficult
general,
question.
But maybe on your project in Helsinki, by the river, by the sea. Or what public spaces mean to you?
Yeah, we think it's like I think it's about the Nordic cultures as well. For us, kind of equality is very important. I don't mean just equality between different sexes, like men and women, but also like that everybody is kind of on the same line. And this it's important that our buildings are open for everybody. Like I showed in Löylä, you don't need to have money. It's not kind of exclusive thing that you have a lot of money and you show off there buying champagne, and poor people cannot enter because they don't have money enough to buy this kind of products or something. But we think that being kind of equal is very important. We want that our spaces are open for anybody. That is very important.
Okay, thanks a lot. There is another question. I would like to ask if you are using CLT panels.
Yes, we are. For example, this spa hotel project we are working now on, it's totally made, only the ground floor has some other structures, but all these hotel room floors, they are made of CLT. And CLT is interesting because the first CLT buildings in Finland, they were made of CLT that was actually produced in Austria because we didn't have any own factories. But now there's like 2 big factories that are producing CLT in Finland.
Okay, thanks. Another question from audience. How you protect wood from air?
From air?
Yeah. Like, do you use smoke or do you use any surfaces on wood?
Surface finishes, yeah. In Löyly, we decided we don't use any surface finish because the wood that we used was heat treated, and this kind of thermo wood, as they call it, it's very resistant, so it doesn't really like rotten as fast as normal wood. And the idea or the reason why we didn't want to use any surface treatment, because like oiling or something would kind of help that so that the water doesn't go inside the wood. But there's so much, there's like 4,000 pieces of wood, and there's 4 different sites on each of them. So it would be huge amount of work, and it would cost a lot, and you would need to do this kind of oiling every 2 years or even every year. So we are now testing like what happens when we just let the people, let the building just like, or the surfaces like gray naturally. And because the wood is very massive, there's a lot of, you know exactly like if when there's kind of erosion in the surface, when there's like water and then like sun, so UV radiation, then the surface starts to kind of get like hairy and gray, but this process goes with continuous pace. And when you have very massive wood, you can easily calculate like how many years the wood resists. So this is why we try to use as much as we can untreated wood.
Okay, thanks a lot. And maybe last question, how is the situation for young architects in Finland to found their own studios, for example?
Yes, I actually talked a bit about it. We are very privileged that we have this open competition system that when there's a major public building built in Finland, like a church or a big school, there's mostly an open competition that anybody can participate, and it's totally anonymous. So you submit your name in a sealed envelope, and only if you happen to win, then they open this envelope. So this is how the students have won a lot of open competitions. If they are very talented, they have exactly the same possibilities to win as kind of older professionals or like architects. So it's a very fair system. And I think we are a very, very small country, but the quality of architecture has been pretty high compared to our size because of this kind of fair play system that we have. And we started our own office also winning a competition, so we are very happy about it.
Mm-hmm. Another 2 questions, sorry.
Yes, no problem.
Thank you very much, Will, for your amazing talk. Do you prefer designing in Finland where you understand context, or is it foreign country also appealing?
I think both are very interesting, like, but I think like, as I told, like in this Hong Kong project, we were very naive that we were thinking that we can kind of manipulate people so that they calm down when there's the heat of sauna and the quietness and you have the social interaction with other people. It really didn't work as we were planning. It was a kind of, I was kind of really like shocked to see how they were just taking this selfie all the time and not concentrating at all. But I don't say it's wrong and our way of doing is right. It's also like a learning experience for us. And when you do a project abroad, you need to be very humble. You cannot think that you know things better, but you have to have open mind. But there's always this kind of risk of not succeeding because the people have different culture and you cannot understand the culture thoroughly if you come from abroad.
And there is last interesting question. Is it really sustainable to cut a tree?
This is a very good question. It's something people are fighting about here in Finland as well. The forest industry says that it's the most sustainable way of growing forests, that you cut trees away all the time and build some kind of buildings out of them, so the carbon is stored inside the buildings, and there's more and more wood coming and less carbon in the air. That is one truth, but then there's some other people who say that if you leave the forest and you just don't do anything about it, it's kind of a nature preservation area. That kind of forest is it's of course very important for the variety, what kind of species you have. You have much more insects and so on, but they say also that it kind of can store more carbon than this kind of industrial forest. So I think even the specialists in Finland don't have a kind of common understanding about it. So I don't think I can say which way is the right way to do.
Okay, so thanks a lot. Oh, another question. Can I one more?
Sure.
Yeah. So, what type of program do you use for visualizations? Maybe students.
Yes, we have used like 3D Studio Max, for example. But nowadays we often outsource visualization. So we have like one guy who was working in our office in Helsinki. He is working for us now in Poland, where he lives now. He was a student while he was in Helsinki and working for us, and now he's graduated architect in Poland, and we still collaborate, and he's doing a lot of our visualizations.
Okay, so thanks a lot for a very interesting lecture. We are really happy that it ran very nicely, and thanks for an interesting lecture, and we stay in contact. Děkujeme za pozornost a těšíme se na viděnou. Naschledanou.